Welcome to the Write Your Own Story podcast. I'm your host, Betsy Leonidas, and the founder of the Write Your Own Story company. Girl, I can tell you right now, you are definitely enough. Here we value service, sisterhood, connection, laughter, and that super genuine, keep it real, tell you like it is honesty. My hope is at the end of each episode, you realize you can do whatever it is you dream about and that you are not alone with what you struggle with. I'm hoping that you are snapping and clapping and hell yesing your way through each one of these episodes. So if this tracks with you, let's get started. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Write Your Own Story podcast. I am your host, Betsy Leonidas, and I am so thrilled to be here with Lisa King, the founder of Free AF, a non-alcoholic cocktail brand. Lisa, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Betsy, for having me.
And you are so far away. You are all the way in New Zealand.
Yeah, literally on the other side of the world.
Yes. This is a funny story. I didn't tell you this off camera, but I was doing geometry homework with my daughter last night, and I was still going to send you your prep questions. And I was like, what day is it? What time is it in New Zealand? I was like, I want to make sure that it lands in her inbox at a time that is helpful, not like the middle of the night. It's too funny. But I'm so thrilled that you are here. Before I dive into your amazing intro, I always like to start every episode just kind of setting the intention. And what I love about this brand and what I love about this sort of, adventure and entrepreneurial spirit that you're on in your lifetime right now is really around this sober, curious lifestyle. And I think this is really infiltrating its way into the States, as you know. And I'm very much ingrained in mom culture where wine and alcohol and stress management and all that stuff still flows freely. But I think a lot of us are really starting to get curious about what it is, what sobriety is, what it means when it's not connected to addiction, and just kind of exploring that more. And I'm hearing a lot more chatter about it. So I am so grateful for your time because I really feel like this is going to serve our listeners in sort of opening hearts and minds around what it means to be sober curious. So again, thank you so much for being here. Okay, should we get into your really beautiful bio? I'm just going to read this. So everyone pretend that I'm a great reader, but it's too good for me to ad lib this. Let me just read it straight up. Lisa King is most well known as the founder of New Zealand social enterprise Eat My Lunch. She was 2019 MYOB Woman Entrepreneur of the Year and 2019 New Zealander of the Year finalist after starting Eat My Lunch from her home kitchen in 2015. The premise is simple. Order a delicious lunch in your office and you'll be sending one to a hungry Kiwi kid. With a 27% child poverty rate in New Zealand, hungry kids were top of mind for lots of Kiwis, and the business model struck a chord. The company hit its 3-year target in the first 12 weeks. Serving about 2,000 kids a day. Now with Eat My Lunch humming along, Lisa's new startup is helping people explore a new relationship with alcohol. It all started when Lisa connected her bouts of vertigo to her beloved gin and tonics and decided to give up the drink for a while. She quickly realized there weren't very good alternatives to alcoholic drinks. Either it didn't taste great or they were really expensive. And there was a clear gap in the market, not just for a nice grown-up AF drink, but for a brand that could lead an attitude shift. Now, in 2020, she had created AF Drinks, underpinned by a new social mission of its own. Recently, Free AF has grown 5 times since launching in the US in 2023 and is now the top-selling non-alc ready-to-drink cocktail at Sprouts. With 16,000 sober-curious individuals following her journey, Lisa's innovation is right at the forefront of change the world is searching for. I mean, no big deal. Wow, this is amazing. I would love to just pause and celebrate all that you have accomplished. And I know that you are a marketer. So I know being one as well, it's just so hard to separate life and sort of the insight that we learn as we live life from how we bring ourselves to life professionally. And I love that you've integrated things that are important to you into things that you've built to serve your community. So kudos to you, and not only on starting 2 businesses, but your wild success. Those numbers are insane.
Oh, thank you.
So for outside of just being an absolute whiz at business, can you tell us a little bit just more about you so we can just get to know the Lisa?
Yeah, so I'm of Chinese heritage. I was born in Hong Kong, and
Very cool.
My parents took us to New Zealand when I was about 2 years old. So I consider myself very much a Kiwi. And when we came to New Zealand, my parents, they didn't know anyone. They didn't really speak the language. And so they started their own businesses. And, I think growing up, I saw them do everything and anything from, owning a Chinese restaurant to going into real estate to, yeah, opening up the first kind of Chinese medical clinic in New Zealand. And so
Wow.
I guess growing up, we're very much surrounded by that. And when I was 16, they offered to buy me a business, and they'd always said to us, don't go work for anyone else, do your own thing, be your own boss.
Wow.
But having seen how hard they had worked and,
Yes.
the sacrifices that they were making, I think it actually really put me off wanting to go into my own business. And so I was very much focused on, I want to get into, big corporate and climb that corporate ladder, go overseas, do things that I thought that's what you should do.
Yep. Absolutely. Check all the boxes, right?
Yeah, and so that's exactly what I did. And so
Yeah.
I spent the first 15 years working for big multinationals, the likes of Unilever and Heinz, Pepsi. Yeah, I came back to New Zealand and I was looking after Cadbury chocolate, and so I was kind of on my way of doing that. But then I had kids, and
Yep. Everything
I think,
changes.
yeah, it changes your perspective on things and what's actually important.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of thought the titles, the money, the
Mm-hmm.
positions that I was holding, what company I was working for, that kind of validated who I was.
Yes.
But then having kids, that totally changed for me. And suddenly I found myself kind of questioning, why am I marketing chocolate and potato chips and, all this stuff that I wouldn't even feed my own kids with?
Yep.
Yeah, you kind of felt, I felt so hypocritical as a mum.
Mm.
Um, and I really wanted to show them, I don't know, the good that I was trying to do in the world and, to leave something for them that they could be proud of.
Mm.
Um,
That is
yeah.
amazing.
And so that's when, very late in my 30s, there was a piece in the media about just the child poverty that was happening in New Zealand, which was really shocking, I think, for a lot of people because you just think New Zealand's this beautiful country. We have so much amazing food and dairy, and that no one would be suffering from food deprivation. But we actually have quite a big child poverty issue. And
Mm.
we don't have government funded school lunches like in most other countries.
Yes.
So kids bring their own lunches to school, and a lot of kids were coming to school with no food.
Mm.
And so they'd spend the whole day at school, trying to learn on an empty stomach.
Gosh.
And that really, for some reason, just hit, a nerve with me, and I couldn't let it go. And I I was a big fan of Tom's shoes at the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
And yeah, I really loved their model of, buy
Yes.
one, give one.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, well, why not use this concept for school lunches? And so I decided to give up my corporate job um,
I love it.
and started Eat My Lunch from my home kitchen. And it
Mm.
was a business where corporates would buy lunches for themselves or for like meetings, conferences, and events. And every lunch they bought funded a free lunch for a hungry child.
I love that.
And yeah, within literally months, every morning we'd have about 30 people in the house
Gosh.
making thousands and thousands of lunches. And it just grew into this crazy,
Yeah. You're like,
very,
whoa, bit off
yeah,
a lot. Yeah.
but very beautiful, business where we were making a difference every single day for
Mm.
thousands of children. And yeah, it was just one of the most satisfying and rewarding things that I ever did.
Yes. And
And
how old were your kids at the time?
Ella and Toby, they were 6 and 4. So,
Oh,
they were really little. We would start at about 4 in the morning in my
yeah.
house. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so by the time they got up,
Yeah.
they were about 25, 30 people in the house, and they'd get up in their pajamas and,
Mm.
come and have breakfast amongst all the action. And
Yep.
so they really were a part of it and, kind of got in amongst it. And after school, they'd have little jobs
I
like,
love that.
yeah, stamping bags or,
Yep, totally.
yeah, for just doing little things as part of the business. And they got to know everybody, that came to the house every morning. And so they really grew up with that and learning how a business can be used to serve a social purpose. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and 7 years after we started Eat My Lunch, the government actually, took notice and they implemented a national policy to
Oh,
feed kids in schools. So we basically went from feeding about, 2,500 kids every day
oh my
to this
gosh.
new government program that is still now feeding about 200,000 kids a day. So I
What a
guess for me,
massive ripple effect that you've had. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. What a
And
gift.
that was really the objective of our business. And, we always said the success of it was when we were no longer needed because
Mm.
there were other things in place or, the problem didn't exist. And yeah, so we actually closed down the business a couple of
I
years ago
yeah.
because we'd kind of achieved what we wanted to.
That is
Yeah.
amazing. And, so much of entrepreneurship is like I'm building something with, so often it's the goal to sell when, your version of sell is that the market, there's such a market and the government is so now aware and they've seen the demand that they have carried the load and been able to expand. I mean, you quote unquote sold, you did it.
Yeah.
You've achieved your goal. That is amazing. There's so much to unpack in that. Like, one, I'm so grateful for Tom's for coming out with that model because so many businesses have picked up that model in one way or another.
Mm,
I was interviewing another woman, and she personally, we were in the same category for a while, and she was so helpful to me, even though technically we were competitors. And she was like, it would be such a shame to have learned what I've learned and to not share it with others.
mm,
And I think that kind of like in the same spirit, I've seen so many businesses do what Tom's has done. And I'm so grateful because of it has made that level of impact seem doable, seem more accessible. But I also, God, there are a million things I want to just hit on really quick. But I love that you also now follow my tangents. Here we go. But that like you had mentioned that you were so honest in saying that so much of your identity was wrapped in your corporate achievements. I so relate to that. It was like I'm going to be worth even more with one more ladder rung climb. So as you were on the client side doing all the brands, I was on the agency side
mm.
doing and
Okay. Yeah.
and it's the same story. And I just think that there are a lot of women out there who can relate. I feel, they're in our generation and in the generation of women who are older than us, who are, breaking ceilings and climbing the ladder. And thank God they did and continue to. I think later generations are like, and you've opened so many doors, but I'm going to go open doors in a whole different building. And
Mm,
I think that that's why we're seeing so many female entrepreneurs like yourself who are creating, this massive demand, so much so that the government is then like, wow, I really need to do something in service of these children in our country. Or I'm seeing, this major sort of health issue and I can address it. And I don't know. Anyway, my point being is I'm so glad that you are, you know, inspired enough by your family and where you needed to go in your life, but brave enough to say those things out loud because there's someone listening right now who is feeling the exact same way. But there are so many women who are, still loving the corporate culture that they feel like they can't say it out loud. And when we say things like this out loud, it gives these women the permission to be like, me too. I want to jump from the
yeah.
ladder. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I
look,
really
I think
appreciate that.
it takes so much courage,
Mm-hmm.
to leave what you know and that
Yeah.
security, and particularly
Yes.
as women, you've the, having children, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we take on so much more responsibility,
Oh,
um,
yes.
and so it does take so much courage to make that leap.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that I've learned, and one of my favorite sayings is, everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Oh,
And, you
snaps
know,
for that. That's so,
yeah.
so true.
And so whenever I'm like I find myself just stopping because I'm so worried about what's going to happen, or,
Yes. Yes.
God, that might not work, or,
Mm.
am I going to lose all my money and,
Right.
all this
Literally. Right.
time.
Yeah. hmm
I just keep telling myself that. And, if I can step through those worries and that fear, then yeah, anything is possible. And
Oh,
I think, with Eat My Lunch, that was my first business.
yeah.
And, it's really kind of shown me that, and that resilience that is required to get through those ups and downs. And I've taken a lot of that into this second venture of
Yes.
AF. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us how we got to AF. I know I read in the bio that gin and tonics were all of a sudden your love relationship became a not love relationship. You had to break up with G&T.
I did, yeah. I
Yeah.
was just, for some reason, I was starting to get like really bad vertigo.
It's awful.
Yeah, I didn't had no idea what it was. And I was out for days, not being able to move,
Oh
and
my gosh.
yeah, and I realized like every time I had vertigo, I had had a gin and tonic
Mm.
before.
Yep.
So I thought, okay, I'm gonna, self-prescribe
Yeah.
a diagnosis here, and I thought, okay, I'll stop drinking for a while, see if that would help. And yeah, this is literally just before we went into lockdown, and
Oh boy, good timing.
yeah, but there was nothing really available. So there were a couple of non-alc beers, and then some big bottle non-alc spirits like Seedlip. But
Yes.
really, there wasn't anything else. And I'm not a beer drinker.
hmm
Um, and I was like, I just really want a gin and tonic,
hmm
and a good
Totally.
tasting one,
Yeah.
just without the effects of alcohol. And so, yeah, we headed into lockdown, and I got a little team together, as you did during that period over Zoom.
Yes.
And yeah, we spent the first kind of 4 months just working over Zoom. We never actually met each other in person
Oh
until
my
like four
gosh.
months in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was, doing like all the product formulations from my house, and like samples would be dropped off at my door. I try them, give them feedback, more samples would come. And so yeah, it was a really interesting time, because you're navigating this locked down world, and trying to start a business at the same time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Was
but
it
it was
was it a
fun.
beautiful distraction from the kind of the craziness of the world, or was it like, oh my god, what have I added to my plate on top of all this crazy already? You've got kids home that you're supposed to teach all of a sudden. I don't know about you, but I am not meant to be a teacher. I can do a lot of things, but I certainly cannot teach fractions.
Yeah, I think it was a really nice distraction. I yeah, it gave me something to kind of keep me busy and focus on,
Yeah.
and away from the maybe what a lot of people were feeling, like that isolation. And
Yes. Yes.
I definitely didn't feel that during that time. Um, so and it was just a really interesting time because lots and lots of people were drinking.
Oh,
A lot.
yeah. Oh my gosh. I would love to see the numbers on consumption during that time. I can only imagine. Okay. So, speaking of consumption,
Mm.
let's just kind of set the stage for what is sort of, I know you've done that endless research, and what is sort of society's relationship with alcohol, and how is that sort of setting the stage for sober curiosity? Because I feel like, as we were saying off camera, it's like we drink when we're happy, when we're sad, when we're celebrating, when we're anxious. I mean, you just name it and it calls for a drink.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I started thinking about AF and, the fact that I wasn't drinking myself, that I started looking into this, because it's something you don't question because it is just there. And it is so
Interesting.
normal.
Yeah.
As you said, it's everywhere. Like we all have bottles of alcohol and wine and beer in our fridge.
Yeah,
Like no one
absolutely.
ever questions that. And so when I was on the other side of not, it suddenly made me question a lot of things. And it just suddenly didn't make sense to me why alcohol was such an integrated part of our world, that people
Yes.
didn't question it, that people didn't know the harm that alcohol causes. it's linked to like 200 diseases.
Oh my gosh.
It's a carcinogen. It's, one of the most, scientists have named it the most harmful drug over heroin and cocaine.
Oh my gosh. And why did they say that?
Because of the availability and the
Oh,
accessibility of it, um,
yes.
that, you know, the addictive nature as well. But yeah, just, and the diseases and illnesses that it can lead to.
And is it almost like cigarettes were, where it was like, everyone smoked and that is how people connected? It was smoke breaks and, you'd pop outside at the bar or at work or whatever. And I mean, people like would, before the cigarette would end, they'd light another one. Like before your glass is empty, you just top it off. Like, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, wait, this literally kills you. Is that kind of what the research is starting to tell us?
Yeah, I think the research has actually been around for a long time, but
Ah,
people just haven't been exposed to it, or, for some reason, I think we all enjoy a glass of something. And so people don't want to hear that it's not good for you to have this, a can of beer and a glass of wine in the evenings. So
yeah.
it was just so fascinating to me, that
That
something this harmful was so readily available and accepted in the world.
it
Um,
truly, it's
yeah.
unbelievable too, because you know how we were talking a bit off camera that we were talking about food regulations, right? And in the States, it's very different than what it sounds like in New Zealand.
Mhm.
And I know this isn't I know there's regulatory difference when it comes to alcohol as well, but it just feels like one of the rarities that is socially blanketed worldwide. Wouldn't you say? I mean, I'm definitely not thinking about all, but it is more socially when I think about some of the countries, like there's so many countries where it's just like everybody drinks.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'm sure that there are plenty of countries where it's not like that, but it just feels
I don't know.
so, I don't know, so global is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And yeah, the more research I was doing, things like, particularly in New Zealand, cigarettes were banned from advertising in New
Mm,
Zealand, right, in the
hmm.
70s, I think. And
That feels
they weren't
early.
allowed to sponsor sporting events from that time. I mean, how many major global sporting events are sponsored by alcohol companies?
Right? Yes. So
Yeah.
many.
And so it's so funny that none of this is applied to alcohol. We don't right now, like, you cannot buy cigarettes, they can't be displayed visibly anywhere in stores, right? Like, you have to
Yes.
ask for it and it's behind the counter.
Yes.
Alcohol takes up, a huge amount of space in the
Oh, yeah.
supermarket. And so you've got your kids going with you supermarket shopping and seeing alcohol there like it's a fruit and vegetable, and
Hmm.
it's
Yes,
so
literally. It's
normal.
like end caps everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Hmm.
just some of those things I started going, God, does any of this actually make sense? And why is no one questioning it? So it was just so fascinating. And even talking to people, you suddenly realize actually there were a lot of people who didn't want to drink, but that
Mm.
social pressure, and they didn't want to be the odd one out, and there were things that people were doing like hiding drinks, or pretend asking the barman for a soda and soda water, but please put a thing of lime in it so it looks like it's a
Oh, yeah.
cocktail. And,
Oh, yeah. Like when before you were ready to tell anyone that you were pregnant, how many times did you pretend drink? I know I did
yeah,
because I was like, I don't
yeah.
want to get busted. And like, I had such a hard time getting pregnant that I was like, really scared to talk about it. And here
Mm.
I am, half of my stress of work is trying to hide the fact that I'm not drinking right now. And when I've got like a medical thing going on, I'm trying so hard to be pregnant.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just so weird to me, like, and I think that's one of the things we really, with AF, tried to solve, but in a way that wasn't confronting, because,
Mm.
we've seen it with cigarettes. No one wants to be told that you're going to die from this thing, that you
Yeah.
enjoy it so much. And, no one wants to be judged. And so we very much approached it that, yes, it was great that, to have wonderful alternatives and offerings that were very adult like. And, we really made sure that there were good options for people who didn't want to drink. But even more importantly, we wanted to, I guess, create a world that felt so aspirational, like
Mm.
everyone else was doing it,
Mm.
that people would go, oh, okay, actually, I want to be like that, versus telling people alcohol's bad for you.
Yeah.
you should stop
Yes.
drinking. So that was kind of really the mission of AF, is that we wanted to make not drinking cool. So much so that everyone wanted to be a part of that. And we took a lot of inspiration from, you were seeing all these celebrities who were going dry or sober and, talking about not drinking and how they were feeling so much better. And so we kind of took that as our inspiration of like, how can we make a brand in a world where not drinking is the done thing
I
and have
love
people
that.
come along.
Okay, so as you're putting down your G&T and you're starting to, do your own science experiment of this, if this is going to help my vertigo, tell me what it was like as you started going, as doors start opening back up and you go out into the world and you're not drinking anymore. How was that met? How did that feel?
Yeah, I think I was saying to you when I was telling people, oh, we're making this gin and tonic without alcohol. And everyone's like, why? Like, what's the
Why?
point of that?
Yeah.
Why would you do something like that?
That's
And
hilarious.
again, it was fascinating the value that people put on alcohol.
Mm.
That, there's no way you could have a gin tonic unless there was alcohol in there. And so that was really interesting. And as we were trying to launch this into retailers as well, trying to convince them that
Oh
this is something
gosh.
people would buy, because we didn't have that category in New
Yeah.
Zealand. And so
Yes.
AF is,
Well,
one
and
of the,
even the alcohol category is so, I mean, it's so versatile and it's so sort of trend based. I mean, things come and go left and right. And when they swing in, it is at this massive, like anything that took up shelf space is now obsolete because we've got a new trend coming in. So even to disrupt the most sort of volatile category and, the consumption rates are insane. And you're like, I would like some shelf space, please. And they're like, of my top seller? No. Yeah. Okay, that's I hadn't even thought about that. Sorry, I'm geeking out for a second.
Yeah, so actually just trying to get people's mindset around the fact that, well, this tastes like a gin and tonic, but you're
Mm.
not going to have the bad effects of
Yeah.
alcohol, and that you can still go and enjoy that social occasion, and have a good night out, but without alcohol. I think it just took people a little while to get their heads around it.
Yeah. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, and it was really interesting. We did things like we did a blind tasting with
Oh,
a
cool.
journalist, and he was like, during lockdown, he was drinking gin and tonics every night, and
Hmm.
he was a huge Tanqueray drinker, and so we did like a blind tasting of G and Ts with like Tanqueray and Bombay and Gordon's, and then there was AF. And he chose AF as the one that he thought was the most alcoholic.
No
Of,
way.
yeah. And it
Oh
was
my
just so
God.
funny. And so from a taste perspective, we knew we had something, that tasted amazing. And the
Yes.
next thing we did was we organized a dinner with a bunch of media and influencers. And we served them AF without telling them that there was no alcohol in them. And
Mm.
through the night, people were just drinking this thing, or I remember just sitting next to a couple, and the wife said to her husband, she said, "Oh, this G&T is so good. It has just the right amount of gin in it." Everyone was having a really great time, and the noise levels were creeping up as the night kind of dragged on, and then we
Uh-huh.
told everybody there's no alcohol in the drinks that you've all been having.
Oh
And then
my
we thought,
God.
but why do I feel like I'm a bit tipsy and like I've been drinking? And then we said to them, look, from now on you can order anything you want, feel free to go and have alcohol. And no one ordered any alcoholic drinks.
What a great social experiment.
Yeah, and they were just all having such a great time that they didn't realize that they didn't need that alcohol component to have a good night.
Well, first of all, kudos to you and your taste profile and all of the hard work that you've done to like come up to, I mean, literally to go up against any test and come out and be like, that was delicious. That definitely a gin and it never did. That's unbelievable. But there's something to be said for how much people feel they need alcohol. Like a social situation isn't social without alcohol, or, people aren't fun and boisterous, or conversation isn't good without alcohol, when you have certainly proven that that is not the case. That is awesome and wild. Hey, busy moms and aspiring entrepreneurs. If you've got a business dream on your heart, but only 20 hours a week or less to make it happen, I'm here for you. I'm Betsy, a busy mom of 4 and a business coach obsessed with helping women just like you build thriving businesses that fit your life, not the other way around. After 20 years in marketing and building my own nonprofit and e-commerce business and a successful podcast, I know exactly what it takes to go from overwhelmed to empowered. That's why I've created my self-paced digital courses designed to help you move forward with clarity and confidence. Whether you're starting from scratch or recalibrating an existing business, my courses will take you from stuck and overwhelmed to simplified, organized, and confident in your next steps. And most importantly, confident in yourself. With titles like Building a Business Around Balance and Joy, Slay Imposter Syndrome and Show Up, Marketing Made Easy, Empowering Success with Grow Math Financial Planning, and Overcoming Overwhelm, and keep going, you'll get simple, sharp, tested strategies that work. Each course is just $79, or save $100 and grab all 5 for $295. Every course is a video with slides by me, plus free worksheets to guide you through. Learn on your own time, at your own pace, and in the privacy of your own home. Let's make your business dream a reality, even if you only have a few hours a week. Visit writeyourownstory.co/FFA-courses or click the link in the show notes below. Ladies, it's time to step into your power, make your money, and build the life you've been dreaming of. And I can't wait to help you get there. Again, visit writeyourownstory.co/FFA-courses or click the link in the show notes below. Okay, so let's talk about like if we were to define, so when people give up alcohol, we all, many of us are familiar with those who are, addicted or, and stop drinking for sobriety in terms of like, it's either all or nothing. But let's talk about how do we sort of define sober curious and how can people sort of relate to that? What does it look like?
For us, it's more about people who are more conscious about what they're drinking, how often and when, and that they want to change that. And so whether that's a reduction versus going completely sober or, whether they take a month off just to feel better. Like I know someone who 3 months before his birthday, he will stop drinking for the 3 months in the lead up.
Every year?
Every year.
Hey,
That's
do
his
you?
thing. Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I think, we are not for complete like don't drink and you have to go completely sober. As a lifestyle, we're more about that, moderating your consumption and reducing it. And so, some people do the whole, like, so how some people don't eat meat on Mondays. So
Yeah.
a lot of people will do, I don't drink Mondays to Thursdays, but the weekends I'll drink. And so, yeah, we're very much about that. And, even myself, I mean, I don't normally drink. So like 90% of the time I'm not drinking. And once in a while when, there's a really great bottle of red wine or like we're having a salad, I'll have like a half glass or a glass. So yeah, I think it's easier than telling people you have to completely cut it out of your life.
Yeah. And going back to that insight that you have that people really don't want to be told what to do and what not to do. And I think, culturally we see a lot of like big swings, right? Like it's either you're all or nothing, like you're all in. How many, for how many things are people all in, quote unquote? And I like that there is sort of this fluidity to it to be like, we're just here to support you as you explore maybe some change in this part of your lifestyle and a really sort of aspirational culturally leading kind of way, which is no small feat, by the way, for creating a category. That's amazing. And then, so what do you think, just for people out there listening and they're like, okay, I'm starting to think about it. Like, what are the common motivators that you see people exploring this sober curiosity kind of thing?
Yeah, so definitely the most common one is health. And I think particularly as women as well, there are a lot of times where we're like almost forced not to drink, like, when you're pregnant,
Sure.
when you're breastfeeding.
Yeah, totally.
So
Yeah.
we do go for long periods of time without drinking.
Yeah.
And then I think as we age as well, and getting into that menopause
Uh-huh.
age, alcohol doesn't serve that well. And, there's more focus on quality sleep now. And we know alcohol really disrupts that. Like, if you want to have a bad night's sleep, have a drink before you go to bed.
It's so true. I wear an Aura ring and so it like tracks my sleep and every single time I have something to drink, my sleep score is way down. It's unbelievable. I'm such a data nerd. I'm like, oh, did anybody else? It's just me. Did anybody else see it? But it is absolutely fascinating. And the more you drink, if I had a glass of wine while I was making dinner, it doesn't super affect it.
Mm.
I don't ever do a big pour, but it does. I mean, it certainly affects it some, but I'm talking marginally. But if I go out for the night and, I'm going to a dinner party and I've had even 3 drinks over 4 hours, 5 hours, my sleep score is absolutely awful. Now, speaking of the menopause thing and perimenopause, I don't even know what that means. I'm still trying to figure this all out. But is alcohol a hormone blocker or an inhibitor or something? I thought I was reading. Anyway, what is sort of the relationship with alcohol and how it affects your hormones? Or do we just know that it's just no good for it?
Yeah, it's just no good for it. Even one glass a day.
Right? Isn't that?
Yeah,
It was so hard being a girl. I'm just going
it
to say it.
is.
It really is. But I think, I have heard that over and over. And again, just like leaning into my never satisfied curiosity of like, why? But I have definitely read more than one time that alcohol absolutely does no service to your hormones, which, as we know, as women are changing literally daily.
Yeah. So that's definitely, so health is the number one reason, people
Yeah.
want to cut back, and that totally makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think as people become more aware of things like sleep,
Mm-hmm.
menopause, everything else, like alcohol is just goes against everything else that we're wanting to better our health and
Yes.
aging.
Yes. Our
Um,
temperaments, right?
oh yeah, yeah. And
Anxiety.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that mental health, I think, particularly for younger people, they're
Hmm.
being really driven by that. We have really interesting chats as a team, and we say like you're never your best self when you drink. Like when have you ever gone, I was
Yeah.
amazing when I was
Right.
drunk,
You certainly you certainly think it while you are drinking, but then you wake up in the morning and you have that like social anxiety of like, what did I say? What did I do?
Yeah. And I
Mm.
think, that prevalence of social media, that young people definitely don't want to be caught not being, on their best behavior, or, yeah, they don't
Yes.
want to be caught doing something they shouldn't be. So I think, yeah, they're being driven a lot by that as well. Yeah. And now more and more, there are good alternatives that, you can find, like the beers and, cocktails, wines. So there really isn't an excuse for people, not to go. Actually, I'll swap to that for the night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so what sort of okay, so I feel like we've gotten really clear on like what are the motivators and that kind of is intrinsically tied to benefits. But let's say just to give people the honest truth, what's it like now when you are rhetorical you, not you personally, are going out for the night and you're like, "Hey, I'm not going to have a drink." Like it's I guess there's two types of scenarios, right? You could go to a friend's house for a dinner party, for example, and you could bring AF, right? And then
Mhm.
it's sort of like I brought something to share, etc. How is that kind of scenario? And then also, how is it going out into sort of the social world and being like, no, I'm just
Mm.
not drinking for that? What are people experiencing right now?
Yeah. So one of the things we figured out quite early on with AF is this herd mentality. And that's why we wanted to create this
Mm,
world, because, the more people you know who aren't drinking, in the same way, like the more people you know who aren't eating meat, or,
mm-hmm.
they're vegetarians, you're more likely to do the same. So, in a household, if you've got one person who's a vegetarian, there's going to be nights where everyone's eating vegetarian.
Yeah,
So, I think as social animals, we very much have that herd mentality, and that's what we
absolutely.
wanted to try and capture.
Yeah.
So that if, the more people you know that are not drinking, the more likely you're probably going to have a night off that night as well. And we see that, like when I have friends around for dinner, they don't bring wine anymore. they
Yeah.
and they're really happy not having a drink when they're with me, or and we still have a really great night. So I think, yeah, by having a lot of these great options, it's definitely making it easier. And you're not just bringing a soft drink or a kombucha, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. You're bringing something like, I think it's, and like you said, I love how it's aspirational. It's, the category is newer. It tastes really good. And so you're like, actually, I'm so excited to share this with you.
And we've seen that too, when you're at an event, or, we've provided AF for corporate parties or after work drinks, it's the AF that goes first. And we get that feedback so often.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just really shows actually when there is that option, people will gravitate towards it because really, not everyone wants a drink. Whereas I think we assumed everyone wanted to drink,
Yes.
beforehand.
And it's
So
like, water is great, but when you still want something that feels just a little different. And it seems like the only options are soda, juice, and water if you're not going to drink alcohol. This is so
yeah,
nice to be able to have an option.
absolutely. And so, yeah, when that option is provided, it's normally the first thing that goes. And I think, when we launched AF, it was during COVID. And so bars and restaurants were closed. And so, we went through the supermarkets first. And that's kind of how we got our distribution and visibility and awareness. Now, what we're seeing is that bars and restaurants are catching up. There's
Mm.
more and more places where you do have a really great, non-alc menu that's beyond your soft drinks and juices. And they're recognizing that. And, customers are asking for it as well. So I think that's still maybe a little bit behind some customer expectations, but it's definitely getting there. And, I've seen some really amazing restaurants in the States where they're doing food pairings with non-alcoholic options
I
too.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Oh, that makes me want to have girlfriends over and do like a blind taste test. My favorite one here, I actually brought it because I really love it, is the Aperol Spritz. And
Yeah.
first of all, okay, hold on. Look how adorable this packaging is. And honest to goodness, it tastes amazing. Okay, but can we talk about, from what I understand, it's a secret ingredient, but is it Afterglow? Yep,
Mm.
Afterglow. Tell me like tell me why, tell me the response. Let's just get right into it.
Yeah. So as you say, when you have a non-alc drink, you still want it to feel like it's an adult drink, that it's
Yes.
and a lot of the non-alc drinks we were tasting, they just kind of really fell short. So it just tasted like a nice flavored sparkling water.
Mm.
Um, and what alcohol does is gives you, first of all, that little burn, from the
Mm-hmm.
spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives a lot of mouthfeel that's missing from a lot of non-alc products.
Mm-hmm.
And people drink not just for the taste, but also that it's a cue, right? Like
Yes.
it's part of your ritual.
Yep.
If you come home, it's that signal,
Yeah. To
and
take it down a notch.
you feel
Mm-hmm.
relaxed, and it does something to you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so we wanted to find something that kind of mimicked that impact of alcohol, and it's a natural botanical extract from New Zealand that we call Afterglow. And so
Wow.
it gives you that little burn at the back of your throat as you're drinking
Mm-hmm.
it. So you're like, oh, okay, I can't actually just scull this thing, and like
Yeah.
I kind of need to sip it like I would a cocktail. And it also warms you up. And so the more you drink, kind of you get this warming sensation, and it impacts everyone differently. Like for me, it's like in my cheeks. So after like maybe 1.5 AFs, my cheeks will start feeling really warm. And you
I
kind of
love
like,
it.
have I been drinking? So it is that mimicking sensation. And so we've really positioned it. It is a sophisticated adult drink. And it is for the alcoholic occasion or when you would normally have alcohol, rather than something, that you could drink in the morning before going to the gym or,
Yes,
early in the
it's so
afternoon.
true. I keep them in my fridge now, and I've never once been like, I would love one of those with lunch, because it truly still feels like that part of the ritual treat sort of comes to mind. But like to consume, it's sort of my, as you mentioned, cue to be like, okay, it's time to like unwind a bit. I think that is so sophisticated and so smart. Just to be like an absolute development nerd for 1 second, like
Yeah.
what was your core team, and like who are you working with? Like flavor profilists? Are you working with like food scientists? Tell me about these people.
Yeah. So look, it is. We have the most incredible team, and the first bunch of people that I pulled together, they're all like ex-advertising people. So
Oh, I love
um,
it.
because beverages, it's a really hard category, and
Hmm.
it's so much of it's about branding as well as the liquid. And
Yes.
so, we knew we needed to get the brand spot on.
Yes.
And so, like, we have probably the best creative director this side of the
Oh,
world.
I
So
love
we're
that.
all like, we call ourselves like, we're just all oldies that have kind of come back together.
Oldies. We're going to come up with a better word for oldies. Even though there's nothing wrong with being old, age is a gift. But we're going to
Yeah,
rebrand that. Yeah.
yeah, super experienced. So we have like about 125 years of brand experience between us.
It's amazing.
Incredible designer, as you can see from the packaging.
100%.
And yeah, and then we worked, I think, because none of us are from alcohol. So we didn't have this preconceived idea that, oh, we've got to take the alcoholic version and try and remove the alcohol from it.
Mm,
So we actually came in with almost like a food scientist slash chef kind of perspective of
very
like,
cool.
if you were to break down a dish, what are the flavors that you can taste and how would you recreate them using other ingredients? And so that's how we make AF, is that we kind of taste the alcoholic version and they're like, okay, how do we use other flavors to create the same flavor profile, the same complexity, and the same mouthfeel that it gives? And so yeah, it's quite a geeky food science
I love
approach
it.
um, to it, but we think we knew we just had to deliver on taste expectations and make it as good as the real thing as possible.
I mean, I think it just absolutely plays to the level of sophistication that these drinks carry. I mean, they're truly the flavor profile. It is just like, there's so much depth to it. You can taste so many different things. And okay, so let's talk about the types of drinks that you guys have within your brand. So I've got my Aperol Spritz that is just literally so delicious and warm and soothes my soul. What else do we have?
So we have a Paloma, we've
Mhm.
got a cucumber gin and tonic. So we actually launched in New Zealand with three gin and tonics that, it's like the
Hey,
classic with
it's
the
your
lemon.
brand.
Yeah. We're like, I think, New Zealand and the UK are obsessed with gin still.
Love
And
it.
then the cucumbers, speaking to those, Hendrix drinkers who love Hendrix with a slice of cucumber. So we've launched that
Awesome.
in the US. We have a vodka spritz. So vodka is one of the most popular spirits on the market, but it's really hard to replicate because it doesn't taste like anything.
Good
Um,
point.
yeah, so we've got that and a whiskey ginger that we just launched
Ooh, I want
for,
that for
yeah, all
winter.
those whiskey lovers. Um,
Yeah.
and we also extended then, well, what we were hearing back from our customers is that a lot of people were looking for a really good non-alc wine, and there wasn't many
No,
options of it.
I have yet to
Wines,
find one. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's still quite behind, with its technology. And so we were thinking, well, why don't we just use our kind of approach to making non-alc drinks with wine? And so we developed a sparkling rosé, and
Mm,
so it's really full-bodied flavor. It's got a slight dryness to it, and so we've launched that in the US as well, and that's doing really well. But in New Zealand, we have like 12 different drinks.
that's
And
amazing.
it's always anchored in like well known classic cocktails, but we're also looking for like what's the next trend. And, Aperol Spritz is so popular at the moment. Um,
Yes.
and yeah, so we're always kind of looking to the alcohol world of like, what are people going to be drinking next and what's trending?
I love that. You're like, thank you for doing the market research for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, truly, this is unbelievable. And I can just like, I mean, it makes me want to like do blind taste tests with friends and like have people over and just create this like great dinner party and just serve that because like, if you follow their socials, you can see, you can like dress these drinks up beautifully. Like they don't need it. They taste delicious as is. But, part of creating the cocktail experience is all around presentation. And these absolutely lend to like the most beautiful presentation. And I loved looking at your social for inspiration for that. I was like, well, that is gorgeous. Don't mind if I do. That's very cool. Okay. So what advice, I'm curious, for being sort of a category disruptor as you are 2 times over, do people often come to you saying, confiding in you in a way to be like, I'm really exploring this. What kind of advice do you give to people who are saying, I think I need it? Either they're like not proud of how they are unable to sort of manage themselves or their consumption or their health or whatever it may be. How do
Mhm.
you sort of help them, or what's your advice?
Yeah, so I think, back to our original inspiration, I will say to, like, did you know that, Bradley Cooper doesn't drink or Pharrell doesn't drink? And everyone would be like, no. And I'm like, yeah, they're super cool.
Yeah.
And, like Pharrell can still be the life of the party without alcohol. Or,
Yeah.
Miley took a lot of time off drinking to create her new album because she said she just wanted to be 100% herself all the
Oh,
time. And so I think, when you look to these people and go, wow, like if they can still do all of that and be super successful and funny and, the life of the party, but they don't need alcohol to do it, it kind of gives you that confidence. Well, yeah, probably I can too, do
yeah.
that as well. So, and that's what we try to do is like, we have a little podcast called Drunk AF.
I
Um,
saw that. I love
yeah.
that.
Where we're interviewing, people and sharing their stories and kind of going, well, yeah, what's your relationship with alcohol? And, when do you drink? When don't you? So, and again, I think if you were asking people to go completely sober, it's a big ask. It's like
Yeah.
dieting, isn't it? It's just, if
Right.
you're like, no sugar, no carbs, no that, it's so
Right.
hard to stick to. And so, yeah, I would say, maybe start off with, hey, a couple of nights a week, I don't drink and I replace it with something else. And
Yeah.
then start extending that if that feels good to you. But I think anyone who starts, they see the benefits immediately. The fact people will tell me like, God, my sleep is so much better. I just have so much energy. I feel really good. You don't go into the office with that kind of fogginess around you. So
Yes.
you soon realize like you actually don't need it as much as you feel.
I love that. And you know what this makes me think of is that, and it makes me think of the original quote that you love that you keep on your desk, where I'm going to botch the actual words, but basically that greatness is on the other side of fear, and that people, they are afraid to try because they're probably afraid to fail. No one, and various other reasons of fear, but there is such greatness on the other side, even if it's just a little other side, to your point of like, just, I don't know, if you stopped a day or two a week, trimmed it down a bit, like there's still such greatness on the other side. You just kind of have to
Mm.
move through the fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
And I just, for me, one of the things that really motivate me is like my father passed away when he was only 50, and
so sorry.
I that has been such a huge motivator in my life because I'm
Mm,
like, life is short. You
it
just
is.
don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to waste a day feeling
Mm,
unwell, crappy, unable to do what I need to do, not be able to connect fully with or be present with my kids and my
oh,
family and friends. And so, yeah, just taking this small thing out of my life, which is alcohol, has really helped me with that as well.
gosh. And to your point about the longevity of, like it is a carcinogen, it is all these things. God, that is such, truly every day is a gift. And, I think everyone has learned that in some way, shape, or form at
Mm.
this time. And I think no one really realizes, because it is so mainstream, the effect that it really does have on us, and that it, even just to try it and see how you feel. I
Yeah.
loved also your notion of like, we're like sort of a herd animal society, and so like, I think grab your girlfriends and be like, would anyone want to try this with me? Like, I want to do this,
Mhm.
but I don't want to do it alone. Could we like do girls' night, and like we could try all the drinks and see which one we like the best? And then could we give this a go for a month and like get together and talk about it or whatever, and like sort of kind of create the movement in your safe space?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah, that's really, I don't know. I'm so motivated. I'm like, who can I call after this? Who wants to do it with me? Yeah. And truly, I mean, really, truly, I can't wait to go and try the rosé. Sounds really good. I broke up with Jen a long time ago.
Yeah. We all have that one, don't we?
Yeah, we are not on good terms. I don't know if I ever want to see it again. But I love how many options you have. I love how beautiful it is. And I love how you have walked away from, you could have gone the scarcity approach, right? You could have been like, this is so bad for you. And oh my gosh. And like, but instead you've just sort of spun it to the positive. And like you said, like, look to the world around you. There's so many people who are doing it, who are living this beautiful life. There's so many health benefits, and making it really an aspirational, sophisticated brand.
Mm.
I'm just really, really, really inspired. You've done a phenomenal job.
Well, thank you.
This is amazing. Okay, I know it is sort of the start of your day, and otherwise I'll just keep you all day all to myself. So I promise I will share. But I like to end every episode really talking about wishes for women and future for women, just kind of like sort of women supporting women. One of the things that I know that you get asked quite a bit about, as do I, but being an entrepreneur 2 times over, we hear women get asked all the time, what is this notion of balance? And you and I talked a bit off camera about it, and I loved your response. You mind sharing your insight as to when people say, how do
Mm.
you do it? How do you balance it all? I
Yeah.
loved your answer.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those questions that keep coming up. It's,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
how do you get work-life balance and find time for yourself and your family and work and everything? And for me, yeah, I don't think there is such a thing as work-life balance.
Yeah.
Work is part of my life, as is
Mm-hmm.
my family and having my own time, my relationship with my partner. And
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of see it as one big, I guess, like jigsaw, and you've got to kind of try and fit it all in. And sometimes work takes up a little bit more because,
Mm-hmm.
like, particularly at the start of trying to launch a business, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and then sometimes, the kids take up a little bit more of your time because
Mm.
things are going on with them. So yeah, I don't try and keep everything like it has to be even, it's 50-50, or just see it all as part of life. And I think I'm really lucky because I really love my job too.
I think
And
that is part of the secret sauce, don't you?
yeah, yeah. And, so I don't work hours. Like, we don't actually have real work hours. We kind of come in, go, and then I might find time to go and do my own thing. Like, if I want to go and get my hair done, or,
Yeah.
go to Pilates, I'll do that when it
Yes.
works, which might be in the middle of a work day. But then I know, like, at night, I'll probably do a couple of hours of work when I have that kind of quiet time as
Right.
well.
When everyone is doing their own thing, and it's because you love what you do.
Yeah. And so for me, it's kind of just everything has a place in my life, and it can't always be equal. I mean, like, I think if you try and strive for that balance, it's just not going to happen, and it'll probably frustrate you more than anything.
Yes,
Um,
it's like we were talking about with like the extremes and the perfectionism around like diet culture and everything, or like I'm going to be completely sober or not. It's like, I don't know, just give it a wiggle. Give it a go.
Yeah, yeah.
I love
And,
that.
and some days I will feel a little bit like I'm burning out, or I'm really tired, or, I've
Mhm.
just spent a month away traveling for work.
Mm.
And so coming back, I'll just make sure I find that time to recover and do, things that I need to for myself. But
Yes.
then when I'm feeling, back 100%, then everything else is all go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is really hard. And, I have found myself at times quite burnt out with
Yes.
work, particularly,
Likewise.
yeah, particularly when it is your own business. You are
Mhm.
giving it everything. It's like having another baby in the family.
Yes, it so is. But what I
Yeah.
love about having my own business is that I felt like in the corporate world, and this just could have been the times because, this was a while ago now, but it's like when you're at work, your family, like, quote unquote, doesn't exist. And like,
Mm,
and then when you're home, like you really don't want work to exist. And, I like to be very present in sort of what I'm focusing on at the moment. But, I too work from home. I don't know. I just feel like when you love what you do and you've created what you do, it, as to your point, it's completely integrated in the fabric of what you call your life.
yeah. And I integrate all parts of my life together. So, like, my kids, they'll come and work for me in the
Hmm.
holidays.
Yep.
And at the dinner table, sometimes we'll discuss work, and
Same.
so they're aware of what's going on. And my husband actually works at AF as well, so we work together.
Nice. Yeah. Very
So
cool.
it's yeah, everything's kind of very integrated, and I like that because it does mean that I'm not, putting another set of expectations on myself of, like you're saying, oh God, I've got to, like manage every part of this and make sure everything's in balance all the time, because I just don't think that works.
No. And I love that the way that you said it of like, I'm not going to put another expectation on myself because I feel like that, especially women, God, we do that all the time, don't we?
Mm.
Is there anything better than when someone asks you where you got something and you're like, Amazon, can you believe it? It's like when someone says, oh, I love your dress, and you get to be like, it has pockets. I love Amazon because I can experiment with trends and activewear and fashion, beauty, and anything else I really want without having to break the bank. If you're like me and you get a little bit sad, okay, maybe more than a little bit sad, when there's no package at the door, then you are my people. Also, I think we might need help. But until then, visit amazon.com/shop/write your own story co, or click the link in the show notes to shop all my faves in fashion, beauty, home decor, organization, and more. These are treasures you're not going to want to miss. Okay, so I love that your kids are watching you. What are your hopes for the next generation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my kids have grown up, from the ages of kind of 4 and 6 to
Yeah,
now, seeing two businesses grow from their home and being in and around it all. And I think I was sharing with you, they actually started their own business about 4 years ago during
I
lockdown.
I love
Um,
this.
and they wanted to earn some extra pocket money, but they were
Hmm.
too young to go and actually get jobs, and so I
Hmm.
said, well, start your own business. And it's such a great age for them to learn the realities of running a business, how money works. Like, they understand a P&L and L and cogs and margins, and
Hmm. Hmm.
employing people. And this is such an amazing time for them because you know, there's nothing at risk for them. And
Yes,
they've
right?
got nothing to lose
No
and
overhead. Yeah.
everything to
Yeah.
gain. Yeah. So, yeah, they're really funny. I remember Ella coming home last year, and, they had employed some of their friends to
Uh-huh.
help, like, make the dumplings because it was going well. Yeah, so they have a dumpling business.
It's
They're very good
adorable.
at making dumplings.
It's making
And
me hungry.
And yeah, Ella came home and she's like, I don't know how you do it, Mum. My hair's going to turn grey by the end of this year. Like, she's like, it's so hard managing all these people. And I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, that's part of business. You
Yep.
have to have people. So the fact that, they're being exposed and learning that right now. And yesterday they were interviewed on national TV about their business.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, just incredible to watch them. And I think, young people these days, they're so smart. They're a lot more
Yes.
sensible, I think, than we were at their age.
Agreed. Full stop.
Yeah, they're much more curious. So, they just know a lot, and they will go and seek information to form opinions. And so, I love the conversations we have with our kids at this age. And it's, ranging from anything from politics to, relationships to business and things. So, yeah, I just think they're way ahead of where we were at that age.
I could not agree more.
And I'm really, like, as a mum, and particularly of Ella and Toby, like, I'm just so proud of them. And, they've already grown into these amazing young people that are already so far ahead of the years. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm just really excited for them. And they have such a different view of life. They want to make a difference and they want to do good. And yeah, I love that. And they're not thinking, oh, I have to go to university and I have to get a corporate job.
Right.
Yeah. Like, there's endless opportunities for them. And so I'm excited.
I think that's amazing. And like, I think that it's so important for us generation of parents to let our kids live their own authentic life. to our expectations of them is to be themselves and to explore and to be brave and to make mistakes and to go for it and, fail fast and
Yeah.
call if you need help and, all these things, but you don't have to follow like the stamped path that you and I both were like, there's the trail. Here we go down the agency corporate role. But I think that is really awesome. And, this also makes me think I have a particular soft spot for moms who are all in on being moms, which I absolutely love, or corporate people who are all in on being corporate. And I've been both of those. And so I wholeheartedly relate, but also have this sort of like nagging. There's something, I feel like there's more for me.
Mm.
You don't to see the example of how your kids are watching you and sort of be stamping at the bags at 4 and 6 to having interesting conversations and being emotionally invested around the dinner table to being inspired to start their own business, let alone together. I mean, my kids work for me during the summer. They've helped me with any business that I've started. They have, they've each started their own businesses as well. But I think I want these moms, like I'm really passionate about teaching moms how to start and run businesses in 20 hours a week or less, because you can start this beautiful, insanely amazing global brand, or you can do a brand that is for you, that you distribute
Mm.
locally. Like let's say you have a passion for making jewelry and you love to make it. It brings you absolute joy and you want to distribute it locally, and it fills a bucket and adds income to your family, and your kids are watching. Then they start to get curious and tap into like, what are their gifts? What do they love to do? So I think it is in such service. I mean, I think back to your parents who, moved to a new country and are working so hard, but also encouraging you and being such a great example. And now you've done that in your own way for the next generation. And I have no doubt that your kids will be great examples for those to follow. It makes a difference.
Yeah, I think as mums, we can't underestimate how much
Mm.
our kids are observing and watching and taking in everything
Yeah.
that we do. And I don't think I realized that probably until yesterday,
As they're
that,
going on national television.
yeah, as they were going on TV and, talking about their business and, the way they were holding themselves, because, we don't see our kids in that way
Right.
often.
Right.
And then you suddenly go, oh, wow, okay, maybe they did learn something from me. And,
Yeah.
that all those years and maybe even later on, they will realize the benefit of that too.
God, that's so, so, so beautiful. I love that so much. I just am obsessed with the next generation. I could not agree with you more. They are so smart and so savvy and so worldly and socially conscious. And I'm like, God, as heavy as the world is, and they carry that on their shoulders,
Mm.
truly. All of us feel it, and they feel it as kids and often confused because they're younger. But I mean, I just cannot wait to see what they all get up to and how they sort of redefine what it means to show up professionally and to be a contributor to society. I'm like just pulling up a chair.
Yeah,
Can't wait to
yeah,
watch.
absolutely.
Well, and I mean, truly, kudos to you for breaking into this category, for understanding a need and being brave enough. Also, this for you, even just as an individual, to raise your hand and be like, I'm just going to try cutting out my best friend gin and tonic because she's making me incredibly dizzy and debilitated. But I'm being cheeky, but truly, just I think that's so brave. You were first person in line, in your social construct to be like, I'm going to give this a break, and actually, there's a need for it, and I'm passionate about it, and then to bring it, these amazingly smart people together and bring it to the world. It is such an impact both on the social aspect of the world and just in terms of consumer goods. So thank you for what you do. And I cannot wait I mean, your business is killing it, but I can't wait to continue to watch it to grow. And I can't wait for all those SKUs to come over on our side. I'm like, bring more, bring more. Where can I want everyone to learn more about AF. Tell us every place we can find you.
Yeah, so we're now in almost 3,000 stores in the US, which is just
Unbelievable.
wild. Yeah, given that we only launched in April last year. So
Oh my God.
it's been, yeah, crazy. We're in Sprouts, Target, Walmart's, Bevmo. We're on Amazon. You can also buy it on our website, which is af-drinks.com. There's also store locator there, so you can find all the stores that we're in. But yeah, I
Excellent.
just see this category growing and growing in the US.
Huh.
And hopefully, yeah, we'll be in more and more places and available to everyone soon.
I mean, I had no problem finding you. So everyone just have a quick look, and I can fully attest they're absolutely delicious. And for those who are sort of starting to explore, I love the idea that you guys have this podcast of people sharing stories. I can't wait to go listen to these. And just, I think it's so important. And again, it's why I started this podcast, for women to share their stories, to normalize how we're all feeling. And so when someone hears a story and they can relate, it's like a huge sigh of relief of like, oh, I'm not alone with whatever you're sort of ruminating on. So people, go check that out, grab your girlfriends, give this a try, and see how it's kind of fits into your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me, Betsy.
Oh, you're so welcome. This has been an absolute pleasure. As you continue to get more new news, new SKUs, please let me know. I would love to help continue to spread your message, because I think it is so important. And I'm just so wildly impressed by everything that you've done.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, this is, I know so many of you are sober curious out there. I so highly encourage you to share this episode, to get your girlfriends together, to, I don't know, let's just dabble. Let's see what we get. And let's continue to ride this wave and drink these like really sophisticated, yummy drinks. Who wants to come over? But in all seriousness, everyone, please share this episode. I think this is, for all of our health and many things beyond. This is a great area to explore. So Lisa, thank you again so much. And thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Well, that's the end of this episode, but promise me, you won't stop here with whatever it is you're feeling or dreaming about. I hope you leave today feeling empowered to live life just as you see fit. If this podcast was helpful to you, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on. I genuinely just want to help women live the life they dream about. So if this type of content tracks with you, subscribe to this podcast or visit our website, writeyourownsstory.co, to download digital courses or to grab a journal and a mug to just dream in and dream with. It's your life, lady. Do you. And just remember, I'm rooting for you, and you've totally got this.